We're back on Brew with a Blue. It's Friday. Hope everybody's looking forward to the weekend. We've got another fantastic guest today. Evertonian, Professor of Management Studies, expert in football, business and finance, and of course the co-author of Carlo Ancelotti's Quiet Leadership book. It's Professor Chris Brady. Chris, thanks very much for coming on.
No, you're very welcome, Matt. Very welcome.
And we were just talking there before we hit record, and you were saying Zoom's getting a bit tiresome. Before you've been doing a lot of meetings remotely. It's getting to that point now, isn't it, where 10, 12 weeks in, we're all feeling the pinch a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's opened up something really interesting, and we know we can use it. And I think we'll use, when it all calms down, we'll use it slightly more sensibly, I'm assuming, in the future. But at the moment, it's one meeting after another, So I think people have not got much else to do, so they sort of say, well, who can I phone up? Who can I get in touch with? So it's probably why you're talking to me, Matt.
Well, we already spoke earlier in the year. I said this to Mick Rathbone yesterday, obviously former Everton physio, and he said, you must be scraping the barrel coming to me. But, I've been speaking to you guys for a while. It's definitely not the case. But no, of course, it's a pleasure to have you on. And
I'm happy to be on the same level as the physio.
But we started off by asking all our guests, how are you doing? How have you been coping with the lockdown? Are you safe and well?
Yeah, it's been fine for me. I mean, to be honest, I feel a bit guilty. We live in Bournemouth now, and probably if you were going to choose somewhere to be locked down, there's a golf course right behind where we live. Or there's plenty of places to walk, and but stay isolated. And the weather's been fine. I mean, obviously, I used to walk down on the beach, which used to be empty, but for some bizarre reason, throughout the lockdown, it's been full. So I've been nowhere near the beach, but we've got woods and places near us. So it hasn't been too bad. So as I say, I feel a little bit guilty when I know what other people are going through. I was trying to think, if I go back to when I was like 20, a young man and two young kids when I was only in my early 20s, and living in one bedroom, God knows how I would have managed, but so I finally found something that age has an advantage.
I think it's when you see other stuff going on in Spain and Italy, and you think how hot it is there, and those little flats, and they live in, where you imagine how hot it would be and how cramped it would be, and they weren't allowed outside for about 3 or 4 weeks, were they either?
I know. I just can't imagine. I've got some friends living up in that area, actually, some really good friends, and they have a nice big house, but not a great garden. But even they were going stir crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, it must have been tough for them. But we're here to talk about Everton and football, and a little bit about Carlo Ancelotti as well. So we'll come on to talk about Everton. And I must admit, Chris, the first time we spoke, I did a lot of research about yourself, a lot of research about the book you've done with Carlo. But I didn't know that you were a Blue yourself until you revealed it at the start of our conversation. So just to start off with, what are your memories of Everton growing up? And is there any teams in particular or players in particular that stand out for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not from Liverpool. I'm a Londoner, but my parents are both from Bootle. And so all of our family, all the Brady, obviously Brady, all the Brady family are in Bootle, and all Evertonians. And I always tell the story of my grandma. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but my grandma, she wouldn't have anything red in the house at all, nothing. She wouldn't even allow tomatoes in the house, except the only thing that was red in the house was the toilet seat. And that's, and so I used to get, when my mum and dad used to work in the catering industry down here. And so during the summer, often I'd get packed off to my grandma and my auntie in Liverpool just to stay up there. So I'd have sort of 3 or 4 weeks up in sort of being an adopted Scouser up there. And my uncle, I mean, he used to follow the football. I mean, nowadays people just won't remember this, but I used to follow the football through my uncle. My uncle John worked on the Liverpool Echo.
Okay.
And doing the old printing presses and everything. And when they print off the pink, really, late on a Saturday, or on a Saturday, or I think it was a pink, it might have been a green, whatever colour it was.
Pink, yeah, it was a pink.
It was a pink, yeah. They used to he used to wrap one up and put it in the post, and it had arrived first thing Monday morning. And that's how I followed football, because there was nothing on TV or anything. So I followed it through the newspapers that my uncle would send down, my Uncle John would send down. So that in those days, that's how you followed the game if you couldn't go to the game. And of course, I used to go up during the holidays, during summer mostly, so I couldn't watch a game. So you know, the first game I saw, I think, actually live at Goodison probably was in the. Thinking back, it was in '66. It was the game. It was the game after, for all the Evertonians who are listening, they'll know this, but it was the game after Alex Young had been dropped when they went away to Blackpool.
Okay.
You know the story when they go away to Blackpool. Harry Catterick drops Young, plays Joe Royal as a 16-year-old. You know, there's the trouble with the fans after the game, and anyway, so he brings him back for the next game. I think it was against Sunderland. I can't remember exactly, but you know, so I was about 17 at the time, and he came back for that next game. And I don't know if it's, you know, sort of memory playing tricks or anything, but I remember it being a really sunny day, and I remember. There was a moment when they were all kicking in. In those days, they didn't have all these, you know, special routines.
Yeah.
They just sort of whacked it in the goal and had a wander around and keep. And a ball came out of the penalty area up towards the halfway line somewhere, and Alex Young broke away from the others to go and get the ball. And so, of course, he gets the ball around about the halfway line. And of course, the crowd just goes mad because they can see him. He's on his own. The sun's out. His hair's all golden, and you know. I mean, I'm sure I'm making all this up, to be honest with you. But it's exactly how I remember. And then he basically juggles the ball all the way back to the penalty area, you know, to keep it up all the way back to the penalty area, while the crowd's going mad. And it was a really sort of emotional thing. And you're thinking, they're going mad here. We haven't even started yet. You know, the game's not even started yet. But he was back and he scored in the game. You know, and so but going back to the newspapers thing. So you know, my first hero was Davy Hickson.
Yeah.
You know, and so the problem was, you know, when I was playing, you know, so I played pretty good level at sort of non-league, you know, sort of national league level. So I was an okay player and I was a striker, but I was like 10 stone 10 or something, and wanted to be Davy Hickson. I should have wanted to be Alex Young.
Yeah.
I might have been okay. I wanted to be Davy Hickson, so basically I just kept getting kicked and battered and everything because I was so lightweight. And but I just wanted to be Davy Hickson, so I wanted to be in there getting hurt. Basically, I have no idea why.
Oh, the great memories, and I think it's when we've spoken, we've had like Everton historians, and we've got people like Gavin Buckland on who wrote a book recently about that time in Everton's history. I think it's quite, it still feels a little bit unexplored in regards to, you know, the stuff like Harry Catterick, like you mentioned there, coming in and, you know, eventually going. You've got Alan Ball coming into the side. You've got the, you know, development of the Holy Trinity. You've got Joe Royal in there as well. It feels as though there's still a lot more to write and cover and say about that time in Everton's history.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things where you've, it's like your dad dies and you think, oh, I should have asked about this, I should have asked about that. I know Colin Harvey's really smart to talk about those times, because I've been on a couple of coaching courses where Colin's been there, and you know, and funny enough, I was on another coaching course where you used to have to update your coaching qualifications, and Martin Dobson was on.
Okay.
Who reminded me that, you know, he was the most expensive player in ever signed when he signed at the time, and it was just great to be around him and listen to the stories. And it's the same, you know, with Colin, you know, sort of sitting down and on one of the courses, Howard Kendall was there as well, and so you sort of listening to all the stories, and obviously, you know, watching Howard's Way, you know, sort of. You look at it and go, oh yeah, I remember those things, and so I mean, you know, it's just a function of being old, though, Matt. It's just, you know, you're actually there, you know, and of course in '66 after that, you know, they went on to the run, and got to the cup final, and I've got to be honest, every single every single round, we had like 3 replays or 2 replays. It was, there was no way we were going to get to the final. And then when we got to the final, you're like 2-0 down in about 20 minutes or whatever. and again, you have sort of conversations. You go back, and the entire family basically came down to stay with us in a 2-bedroom council house. About 15 people were in there for 2 nights, just to get to when we, with all blue flags and scarves hanging out the windows and everything, and all the neighbours are like, "What the hell is this?" They're right in the middle of West Ham territory. What's going on here? They were good times, and because you had 63 before that, which was a really, really good period as well for Everton. And you had those times in that little period when people don't realise how successful Harry Catterick was.
Yeah.
And how apparently, I never met him, but apparently not the easiest guy in the world to get on with. So I'm told by all the players. But the sides that he put together there, and then you had the Tony Kaye stuff as well, which was again, people may not remember, but Everton got to the European Cup and were knocked out, really controversially by Inter Milan. Actually, no, I was at one of those games, so that must have been before '66. That must have been '64.
Yeah.
I was at one of those games. I was at the game. I can remember Tony Kaye. No, not Tony Kaye. Who was? I think it might have been Jimmy Gabriel. I can remember anyway. One of them, the guy that was the superstar at Inter Milan, was a guy called Luis Suarez. It was the Inter Milan superstar at the time, and I think, and we'd had a Roy Vernon goal disallowed, I think, for offside or something. Of course, no VAR or anything like that in those days. So we all assumed he was never offside in a million years, and then Suarez started getting a bit nasty, and he was making out he was injured, laying pretty much in front of me where I was in the stand. And I think it was Jimmy Gabriel just came past and stood on his hand, told him to get up. You sort of thinking, well, these sort of things don't happen nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said there you went on to play yourself. Obviously, you took an interest in football, business, and finance as well. Did you still manage to get to the odd game every now and then? Or
I get to most of the games. Most of the games in London, and most of the games. Obviously now Bournemouth's in the Premier League as well. Yeah. When the Blue and Robert Elstone used to be a good friend of mine. So when he'd sort of come down and have his pre-match meal with us before the Bournemouth game. So I get to, I've got loads of friends in London who support the London clubs, and they'll always get me a ticket for the London games. Don't get up to Goodison that much, but now Carlo. The problem is once Carlo arrived, we sort of kept saying, I've got to come up for a game, and every time something was cancelled or whatever. But I saw all the games, when they were at Arsenal, when they were at West Ham. Yeah. Actually, I wish I hadn't, to be honest, between you and me, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I think the West Ham one in particular was especially forgettable.
It wasn't as bad as the Chelsea one.
Oh yeah, we won't even go.
That was horrendous. That was horrendous. Well, I was supposed to be having dinner with Carlo that night. The 4 of us, and we decided maybe it wasn't such a great idea.
Oh no, that's devastating. I bet you would have had a great night if we've won as well.
Oh yeah. I knew it was going to be tight, and it's not. If you know Carlo, he doesn't get too bent out of shape by losing. But I knew that performance he would have been fuming, absolutely fuming. Not the result was. He wouldn't have cared if they'd have lost 10-0, but they'd a different. It'd have felt different. I think I've never even spoken about it. I've never even had a conversation about it.
Knowing him like you do, what do you think it would have been about that would have?
I don't know. It was just
being back at his old club and sort of seeing what happened on the pitch. It would have been the effort of the
It,
players.
no, it was just. I don't think it was anything to do with being at Stamford Bridge. I mean, that wouldn't have worried him. What would have worried him was, I think, and as I say, we've never spoken about it, but was the performance. I mean, if you remember the little kid who played, the little debutant kid who played in centre, yeah, he played, and he ran Davis ragged, and it really looked like. Obviously, you can never say that players are not trying, but it really looked like their heads were down, their shoulders were down. It just didn't feel right and look good. And I know Carlo's very, I mean, he's you don't get to where he is without being a really fierce competitor. I mean, he comes over as very laid back, but in terms of, he's a competitor. He's a real competitor. And that there was that lack of competition, if you like, that would have, I think, would have driven him up the wall. Because I was chatting to Mrs. Ancelotti after the game before, when we said it's probably best that we all move on, and I said, you get him home quick, because he's not going to be in a good mood.
Yeah,
and I've never, as I say, I've never spoken with him. I don't know, but I wouldn't. I don't know what it would have been like in the dressing room after that game.
Do you feel as though that's something that Evertonians are going to have to get used to about him in particular? Because while you said there, he's a fierce competitor. When he speaks to the media in general and does his press conferences, he comes across very laid back, very affable. And I think there was one moment after the Newcastle game earlier this year where it was 2-2, and obviously Everton conceded 2 goals in stoppage time to throw the game away. And he came out afterwards and said, "Well, I've lost the Champions League final after being 3-0 up. These things sort of happen." And, forgive the pun, but there are a few eyebrows raised about that sort of thing. But it feels to me a little bit as though that sort of attitude of these things happen, it's not the end of the world. It's probably what Everton need. Because I think as a fan base, we can get too high sometimes and can get a bit too low. And that grounding presence can be helpful.
As you say, though, I think you're right, Matt. You just have to get used to him. But, but he would have been going berserk about that, to do that. I mean, the interesting thing is, when we were writing the book, obviously the Liverpool game throwing that, it was interesting because the conversation, if I said that, how did it play out? What were you thinking in terms of changing things and that? And I think what was really interesting about that is to listen to it close up, and you go back. He said that, except for 8 minutes, he said that was the best performance of any team he'd ever coached for like an hour. They were 3-0 up, they were coasting. And so the mental side of it, he was saying that when Liverpool scored the first goal, the attitude on the bench was very much like, we're so much in charge here. Okay, we'll win it 5-1 instead of 3-1. That's fine. And he said, and then they scored the second goal. He thought, hang on, we're going to have to shut up shop here. But before he could get the guy on, the third goal had gone in. And so, it was just timing and things. And he can sort of live with that, whereas I'd be going, if I'd have only done that 10 seconds earlier, or if I'd have done this, or if I'd have done that. But he can, he's been in the game so long.
Like that's too ridiculous, isn't it, to even consider happening?
Yeah. And so, and then if you remember the game after that, I mean, they murdered Liverpool for the next 20 minutes. They murdered them throughout extra time. I mean, basically Liverpool played for 8 minutes. Yeah. And Milan played for 100 minutes, and their performance on that night was fantastic. I mean, if you remember, at half time 3-0. I mean, it could have been 5-6-0 then. Yeah. Liverpool were that, but Milan were that good, and Liverpool were, it was like that, wasn't it? One side was that good, and the other side were that bad, but the gap was enormous. So the idea, I mean, you could have got 1,000,000 to 1. You could have got 1,000,000 to 1. If I'd have said, I want £1 on this, you'd have given me any odds you wanted, because there's no way this is going to happen.
Yeah, still painful. Still painful to think.
Yeah, I know.
But just it was interesting to get your thoughts on how I mean, have you spoken to him during the lockdown at all, Carlo?
No, spoken to his wife, who I know from years back, and she's friends with my wife, and spoken to her, and he's losing weight. She tells me.
Oh, really?
So we're having a bit of a contest. I think he's down to about 80 kilos now, and he
Wow.
was 85, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. But she says he's in good. She says he's in good shape. And I thought, that video he did for the fan, I thought he looked trim there, because he does like his grub, Carlo, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, maybe it's because he's not been able to go out and sample some of the Italian restaurants in town.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I'm in better shape now. When you were talking earlier on, how do you feel at the moment? It's like when you're working, you're grabbing sandwiches and bread and stuff like that, and you're not working out. Where I can work out for an hour or so every day. I haven't missed a day since we've been in this. Whereas normally, you think, oh Christ, I've got to get a train to somewhere, and you don't realise how much time you spend travelling.
Yeah.
When you could be doing something, could be going for a walk or having a run or whatever. So I expect the next time you see him, he'll look trim.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
It'll be interesting, that. And I suppose it's one of the things I wanted to ask you is how do you think he'll cope with this going back? Because when the players go back and he has to go back, which is already sort of started, because we were speaking on one of our shows this week, and I sort of made the point that this is a fella who's seen everything and done everything in the game, but he's never dealt with anything like this before or seen anything like this before. But I remember when we spoke last time, and you said he's a very versatile man in regards to his leadership and how he approaches things. And hopefully, from our point of view, you'll take that into this next phase of the season. I mean, do you anticipate he'll just be sort of, you can brush it off his shoulders and just crack on as he has done in the past?
Yeah. He'd have thought about it really seriously and got some really detailed plans in place. And I think they've got a really difficult run in.
Yeah.
I think obviously we didn't want this, but I think it came at a good time for Everton, because I think they were just about to go into a run in. They'd had that Everton result. They'd had the Arsenal. They got the draw at United, didn't they? But then they'd had Arsenal. They'd had the West Ham thing was horrible. But Arsenal and then Chelsea, and they were just about to go into a run, with some difficult sides. The derby. Because I think wasn't the derby the first game that was cancelled. I think.
It was.
I was definitely going up for that. I remember.
Yeah.
And so. And then they've got clubs in and around them. They could easily sort of finish. They could easily finish 15th, 16th, or 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't rule either out at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see how clubs come back and how they handle empty stadiums and that sort of stuff. But because we know the home advantage. I don't think any of us understand why home advantage works, but it does. I mean, there's enough stats out there to tell you that it does, and places like Goodison are particularly valuable. So I don't know how whether that's going to count in their favour or out their favour. But I mean, when we were discussing him coming to Everton, because it was one of those interesting things, which sort of Everton have come in for me. What do you think? And I said, well, obviously, I'd love you to be at Everton.
Did he reach out to you? Did he, before he took the job, and sort of?
Yeah. We spoke about it. We spoke about it a lot, because it was difficult times at Napoli as well, and we'd only just been over and spent some time over there with them, so it was difficult times there. So we were just chatting about it, and of course they knew that I had family in Liverpool and all that sort of stuff. So. What's this? What's Everton like? And I was telling them about the history and all that sort of stuff, and I said, because he was worried, because when it was all happening, they were in the bottom 3. So he's sort of, well, what about my reputation? Am I going to take them down? And I'm saying, well, no, you're not going to take them down. They're actually not that bad. They're bad. They're bad, but they're not that bad. And I wasn't a great fan as previous management. I think things have drifted a little bit and got less competitive going back to what I was saying. And I was saying, and you'll come in, there'll be in a bit of an uplift, and that'll get you out of danger, and you should be able to stay out of danger for the rest of the season. So really, because if you remember, they came in just before Christmas, and you're thinking, well, is it worth buying anybody in the winter? It's not really. Let's start thinking about summer window and thinking about really ramping up then. Basically save your money. I mean, obviously that's none of that. I was just thinking that, but that's none of that. Obviously we don't have those sort of conversations because they're private, obviously. And but I'm thinking, well, why waste any money now? You're going to stay up anyway. Just with a decent coach and a decent uplift, and you already had a bit of a sniff with Duncan.
Yeah, of course.
Lifting things, so you could see if they want to play, they're okay, and and I'm quite a big, well, I'm a big fan of what Calvert-Lewin could be.
Yeah.
And so and I think Carlo's probably somebody who could probably get the best out of him. As long as he keeps focused, and my hero was Davy Hickson, and there's a line, isn't there? There's a number 9 line.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You've got the number 9. There's the responsibility here, son. So I was quite confident that they'd stay up. But next season's going to be a big season, because people would be saying, well, we're paying a lot of money for a big manager here, and is he doing it? I think the other thing that's really important for people to understand is that one of the criticisms of hiring somebody like Carlo was that, well, he's not a turnaround guy. He's more of an uplifting guy. He gets a great team and he takes them to the next level. But he really enjoyed the work he was doing with PSG when he went to PSG, which, if you talk to people about Carlo and say to, the average fan, and say to him, what about the time he was at PSG? Most of them will go, was he at PSG? Oh, I knew he was at Real Madrid. I knew. But his time at PSG, he went there, they didn't even have a proper training ground. They didn't have a restaurant. They didn't have anything. And he sort of built it, pulled big names in like Ibra and people like that. He brought those in, and Thiago.
Cavani came in under him, did he?
Sorry?
Did Cavani come in under him as well, I think? Got him.
Yeah. He got, so he got, and he got it going, and something happened there. People fell out. I don't know what happened, but he really wanted to spend some time there. So I think he wants to spend some time at Everton, to build things. But I'm not sure if things go badly next season. I'm not sure he'll get the chance. Because it's that sort of business, isn't it?
Cutthroat nature, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a couple more things. How weird was it for you, as someone who's spent a lot of time in Bootle, to see Carlo speaking about Bootle New Strand?
I know. I can remember we were having a conversation. He said, we were having a conversation before, and he was talking about Liverpool. He goes, well, it's same as London, isn't it? And I'm like, whoa, stop, stop. No, it's not. No, it's not. I can remember taking my kid to his first. Actually, if you want a history thing, my son, the day when your dad doesn't know everything.
Okay.
So I took my son to a derby game, and it's the game where Glenn Keely played.
Yeah.
So we go 1-0 down. I think Russ might have scored 4 goals that day. I think we got beat 5-0. I think we go 1-0 down. My son must have been 11 or something like that. We go 1-0 down, and Keely gets sent off, and my son says, "What's going on?" It was his first game he's ever been to Goodison. And I said to him, don't worry, son. We'll be all right. At which point, another 4 goals go in, and that was the moment when my son decided his dad didn't know everything. That moment in your life when you realise your dad's just human.
Yeah.
I think that was my moment.
Oh wow! But yeah, just on that, he seems to really embrace Liverpool and embrace the region.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you look at him and feel as though, and maybe this is me just being ultra cynical here, but I don't know if you look at him and think that him doing this and saying this and, you know, all that sort of thing, it's just a style of leadership. It's him engendering himself to the fan base, to the football club, and everyone's sort of saying, look at this fella who everyone said is just coming here for a payday. He's really loving it. He's loving the area. He's loving the football club. Is there a part of that that's manufactured, do you think? Or do you think it's all very sincere?
No, I think I think if I didn't know him, if I was looking from outside, I might be a bit cynical about it. But I know him, and I know that's not the case. I know that because he could have just, I mean, he thought long and hard about it. I know that for a fact, you know. So if he'd have just been there for the money, it would have gone, right, okay, I can't get this, I can't get that, you know, that's fine. They better pay me a load of money, so I'll get the sack in 2 years. Who gives a shit? You know, that it could have been a situation. But I know that's not the case. And I know that when he was still worried, I think, when he got there, because he didn't really sort of know, you know, and within a very short time, you could tell that he was into it. He was into it, because the one thing you have to remember about him, he is really a football person. I mean, he loves the game, so he always wants to be involved in the game. And so if somebody gives him that opportunity, he's very grateful. You know, I mean, it sounds stupid to us, doesn't it? You know, you're this great manager, you can pick where you go, but he's very humble like that. He's like, well, you know, they've given me this opportunity to stay in football. Yeah. So, you know, and he seems to like it where he's living, around the area he's living as well. And you know, and it's close enough to London to get down to where the grown-ups live, so he's all right.
You know that yourself, of course. Yeah. Just one final thing I wanted to ask you about before I let you go, Chris. I know I've kept you longer than I said. But,
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Obviously, you've got so much expertise in football business and finance. And you've spoken in the past about Everton Stadium and the project at Bramley Moor. From your experience and what you know about these sorts of projects, have you got any fears that this might be, you know, slowed down or eventually not go ahead based on the current climate and the current pandemic? Or do you feel as though Everton have got the ducks in a row here?
I think both of those things, Mac. I think they've got all their ducks in a row, but I think I don't mean the pandemic necessarily, which can't have helped, but these projects have so many obstacles to overcome. And so, have I got any fears? Yes, yeah, definitely. They're probably all unfounded, and if somebody said, here's the situation, here are the books and everything, and I had a really close look at it, I might be fine. But just 1 second, Matt.
No problem.
Sorry, Matt. It's just because it hasn't happened yet, and it's been so long, and you know, there's all the other options before, you know, a joint stadium and all that sort of stuff, which I know everybody in Liverpool thinks is anathema, but from a business point of view, it would have been a great bit of business. So all of those things have been happening for, you know, 10 years or so, you know. So, and you know, until somebody actually puts a shovel in the ground and starts working there, to use your word, I'm fearful.
Yeah. I think as Evertonians, we are conditioned to be apprehensive about these things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a state of mind, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for coming on. Do stay safe. And pass on our best wishes to Carlo when you do speak to him. Hopefully, you can have that dinner with him soon.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. Well, we will do eventually.